Okay, what's up, guys? Welcome to another video. Again, it's been a really long time since I posted. I apologize for that. I've just been really busy with school and whatnot, but we still stream over on Twitch if you ever want to catch in, or pop in. But we have the TWAB this week. Expect a longer video because this is a pretty big TWAB. I'm not gonna lie. So here we go. Let's just get right into it. This week at Bungie, we take a look at every grain in the ability sandbox. Hello, and welcome to another sandbox-focused TWAB. If you're new around these parts, you may be asking, what's a sandbox? Well, it's complicated. It splits between the weapons you use, the armor you equip, the perks and mods that you hunt for, and the enemies you face. Let's be real, the Destiny 2 sandbox is broad. Last week, we focused on the weapons sandbox and what changes are planned on December 7th. This week, we're taking a pass on the abilities your Guardian possesses. Think supers, melees, grenades, class abilities. I highly recommend you grab a glass of water and maybe even a snack because we got a pretty lengthy update for you to read. Okay. Before we dive into the details, it's customary to have a TWAB intro discussing what's going on in the realm of Bungie and Destiny. Let's keep this short and sweet, shall we? Our 30th year anniversary is out on December 7th, which also happens to be 19 days from the publication of this blog article. In-game, there's still plenty to do with seasonal challenges, trials, and occasional Iron Banner vendor rewards, reputation, god roll, hunting, and more. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the States, and many of us will be taking some time to rest up and spend time with family. As such, expect a very light TWAB next Wednesday. I guess Thursday would be Thanksgiving, right? So it makes sense why there'd be a TWAB. Anyway, all right, sandbox time. Let's go. There are buffs, there are nerfs, and there are tuning levers that we're recently unlocking with back-ended changes. There are clear separations between PvE and PvP and more. There's a lot going on here, so you don't feel bad if you scratch your head wondering how these upcoming changes will feel. If you find anything a bit confusing, please sound off with questions. We'll clarify as we can on our forums and social spaces. With all that preamble out of the way, I'll finally shut up and pass the mic over to the team. Okay, new legends will rise. Hey all. Kevin Yanes here to give you a quick intro before I hand off to fellow designers Eric Smith and Mike Humboldt. He has a brief roadmap leading into the anniversary. We're just going to skip over this stuff. It's just a lot of talking. It's not really adding much, I just want to get into it, into the meat and potatoes because, I don't want to read every little bit. But here, we'll start right here. So pretty much to sum these up is that it seems like they're taking in feedback from all the stuff and they're trying to make this sandbox as good as it possibly can for the anniversary and then probably Witch Queen. So Flux Grenade. Increased base cooldown from 82 seconds to 182 seconds. Wow, that's a substantial cooldown. Increased attached detonation damage to 150 to 250 one-shot kill in PvP. Okay. Increased damage as PvE combatants by 15%. Remove projectile tracking. Added a small amount of aim assist. Increased throw speed by 117%. Now sticks to all surfaces. This is going to be interesting. I think the one-shot capability of it will be interesting and whatnot. But they're not going to have it all the time unless they really try to build for it. So I think Flux Grenades are going to be a pretty good viable option. I don't know how overpowered they'll be. They seem like they could be OP if built right. So I'm a little worried for the Flux Grenade, but other than that, it seems like an okay change. As you can see, the Flux Grenade has a very long cooldown, but it's a one-shot kill in PvP if you manage to land it. It also hits harder in PvE. As a reminder, the Flux Grenade is currently only available to Hunter Arc Striders. Now, here's an example in the opposite direction, the Firebolt Grenade. Firebolt Grenade, reduced base cooldown from 82 seconds to 64 seconds, reduced damage per bolt from 90 to 65, increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. This is interesting because I think what they're trying to do is separate certain nades for certain things. Some will take longer to charge and will do more damage, but some will take less time to charge and do less damage, like the Firebolt and Flux Nade. As you can see, they're completely different in terms of, but low damage, high refresh rate. Makes sense to me. The Firebolt Grenade has a low cooldown time, especially at tier 10 discipline, and it also has low damage output. These kinds of varied cooldowns and power outputs should make the game feel more dynamic and give more depth to build crafting. To make build crafting around cooldowns easier, you'll now be able to see the base cooldown time of your abilities when selecting them on the subclass screen. Cool, I like that. Ooh. On the character screen, you'll see the actual cooldown of your abilities as they're affected by your equipped ability and armor stats. A couple things to note about cooldown times in the UI. The base cooldown time is actually the cooldown time at tier 3 of the relevant armor stat, strength, discipline, etc. This is because the system technically penalizes you for tanking your stats below tier 3, in which case your cooldowns would be longer than base. We're looking into updating this to be more intuitive in a future release. Cooldown times for class abilities are not currently displayed due to a technical issue. We plan to fix this in a future release. Okay. That's interesting. I did not actually know that you could be punished for having something below tier 3. That's really interesting to me, but yeah. We've been calling this the variable ability cooldown system, and we think it's the beginning of a big change for the Destiny 2 sandbox. It's a foundational change in preparation to move the light subclasses over to the subclass 3.0 system that Stasis currently uses. For the 30th anniversary, we're using it to change the cooldown of nearly every ability in the game. That's really interesting. And I think it'll make for a lot of fun builds. So that's really, really cool to see. It seems like the variable ability cooldowns thing that they're doing, it seems like certain things are going to take longer for them to charge. And, like, here's my thing. If they made Shatter Dive, like, the Glacial Nade, if they have, like, a fat cooldown for it so that you can't just, like, spam, like, just build for grenade energy, and they make it so it takes, like, 180 seconds, I think that's a great and good enough nerf. And they really don't need to touch the damage as much if they want to keep it a one-shot for how long it takes. But yeah, I think this is going to lead to a lot of things that are OP now to be not as OP or just viable but not broken. I like that. One of our design goals this year was to reduce the amount of ability spam in the Crucible and put the focus back on gunplay. To this end, we've made ability cooldown times longer on average than they were before. We don't want the PvE experience to suffer for the sake of PvP balance, though, so we've tried to compensate where possible. For example, we've increased all grenade damage versus PvE combatants by 15% or more. This should make grenades feel the bigger power moments when they do in today's game. Melee ability cooldowns haven't been increased quite as much as grenade cooldowns, and some of the less aggressive melee attacks have lower cooldowns than before. Class ability cooldowns have also generally increased, but the changes vary depending on which ability is equipped. We're excited to see how these changes feel once they hit the live game, and we'll be monitoring and adjusting accordingly in future releases. I'll now pass the mic to Mike and talk about big changes, super cooldowns. This is interesting to me because I think they're probably, because I haven't read this before, so I think what they're going to do is they're going to change how intellect works so that it's not like the higher you get, the more super energy you get. And I think they'll just take that, like, bring down how much super you'll have at once or something of that nature. So that you can't just, like, pop, like, 4 supers in a game, you know? I think they're trying to, Here are a few key goals for this system. In PvE, super uptime should be relatively unchanged from the live game, if not slightly higher. I like that a lot. We're pretty happy with the frequency of supers in most PvE content and don't want to make big changes right now on that front. Everybody should get at least 1 super in a 6v6 match, which goes to the score or time limit as long as they engage in regular combat. Super should be less frequent in 3v3 modes than the live games, where 2 supers per match is a fairly regular occurrence. And primary weapon play should have a noticeable benefit in super energy regeneration. And different supers should come online at different times and get a given match, and your super of choice should have an impact on how quickly it regenerates. Interesting. So it seems like, at least here and here, they're trying to bring down the super spam, bring it down. That's what it seems like. To reiterate what we mentioned above, we have always lived in a world where nearly every super in the game shares the same cooldown, regardless of their efficiency in a given game mode. Now that we have made the foundational change to differentiate cooldowns per individual ability, we want to address the super o'clock issue in the Crucible, where 3 minutes into a match, 12 supers are simultaneously popped and chaos ensues. We also want to open up build crafting space where your super's cooldown time is an important element in your decision making beyond how high you want your intellect stat to be. Oh, so it doesn't seem like they're going to touch intellect at all. From what that said, at least. I could be wrong, but... At that end, we've separated supers into cooldown tiers that affect both the passive regeneration rate as well as the damage-based regeneration rate. This tiering was primarily influenced by each super's kill potential, where most one-off supers are likely to wipe a team or a room of combatants, but a long-lasting roaming super can and should have a trade-off as a result. We've also taken into account the general potency of the subclass kits where possible. For example, later on we'll discuss Shatter Dive and changes we're making, which impact how effectively the Revenant Hunter is in the neutral game, causing us to shift some of that potency to the super's uptime as a result. It's also important to stress that this is the first iteration of this system, where any given super will fall into the recharge rate tiers, will change over time as we continue tuning. These are the super regeneration rate tiers that we're launching with on December 7th. Tier 5, fastest regeneration, Well of Radiance. Interesting. Tier 4, Blade Barrage, Silence and Squall. I don't know. Fuck the Silence and Squall. Blade Barrage is kind of trash. I'm not gonna lie. In my opinion. Tier 3, Shadow Shot, Burning Maul, Arc Staff, Nova Bomb, and Thunder Crash. Tier 2, Golden Gun, Chaos Reach, Nova Warp, Storm Trance, Daybreak, Sentinel Shield, and the slowest regeneration, Spectral Blades, Fist of Havoc, Hammer of Soul, Glacial Quake, and Winter's Wraith. Now, this is interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. Because, like, if you have a one-off like this, like a Nova Bomb, especially with, like, Bottom Tree, I don't think you're not going to, in PvP at least, I'm thinking of, like, a PvP standpoint more so because I'm a PvP player. I feel like this might be higher, or should be higher. I think it's kind of difficult to get a ton of kills with Nova Bomb unless they're, like, clumped up to an extent. I get why, like, you'd put, like, Nova Warp and Storm Trance and Daybreaks, all these. Chaos Reach to an extent. Golden Gun, yeah. But, like, the slowest, I don't know if Spectral should be in there, or maybe it should, I don't know. Yeah, I think the roaming supers, like, a majority of the roaming should be down here, and then a lot of the one-offs are up here, like Shadow Shot, but then there's Burning Maul and Arc Staff, which I don't really think makes sense. I think they should maybe be tier 2, but I don't know. Taking it down a notch, let's talk about non-super abilities for a moment. In the 5/27/2021 TWAB, Kevin shared our foundational pillars for the role we want abilities to play in the PvP combat sandbox. As a quick refresher, this is where we want to be. Weapons are the primary way players engage with combat. Non-super abilities accentuate or augment the combat, but should rarely solve an encounter by themselves. Abilities have clear strengths, weaknesses, and counterplay. Build crafting is rewarding within the moment-to-moment combat loop of Destiny. We're not there yet. In general, ability uptime in the Crucible is too high for the current potency, and it's difficult to understand when the opponent will regain an ability after using it. Some of that uptime comes from passive cooldowns, but many of our outliers also come from elements of the build crafting system that have previously been unified in ability energy returns between PvE and PvP. Yeah, I always thought this, like, there's certain things, if you build it right, like, you can, literally have your Shatter Dive, just for instance, because that's, like, the most annoying thing in PvP right now, in my opinion. You could Shatter Dive somebody and, like, 30 seconds later get it back and just Shatter Dive again. Like, you can just spam it. It's really ridiculous, actually. Even in certain builds where, like, for instance, 3-shot Golden Gun, I did the William Knifeman build video, and with Markov Chain and Monte Carlo, you can literally just you have your enhanced knife for so long. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. how long you can, or how many of those knives, like, you will always have it. Always. It's crazy. With the 30th anniversary, we've taken a pass at a significant number of these elements across subclass perks, armor mods, and exotic armor pieces. We have tuned PvP energy regeneration separately from their base PvE values, which are not changing. This is good. I'm glad they're finally starting to, like, really change, like, split the sandbox. I really, really like that. I really like that. Yeah. We've probably needed a separate sandbox for a while, and I think this is going to do really, really good things for the game. Like, drastically change it. Per our pillars, we want build crafting to be rewarding, but in its current state, the combinatorial nature of these perks and items leads to the unsustainable ability energy economy that diminishes weapon play in PvP. For this tuning pass, we focus primarily on items that feed into self-perpetuating loops of ability energy gains. Here's a brief list of the affected items. Subclass neutral game perks. These perks have had their ability energy regeneration reduced by roughly 50% in PvP. We targeted perks that can either activate out of combat with a single button press, or those who were returning amounts of ability energy that were significantly out of band. Whisper of Shards, Arc Web, Rising Storm, Ionic Traces, Electrostatic Surge, Aftershocks, Inertia Override, Benevolent Dawn, Practice Makes Perfect, and Dark Matter. This is just like something I wanted to point out. That's a lot of Warlock stuff. Lots of Warlock. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a Warlock. Come on. Let's do it. I don't know. Anyway. Subclass and super perks. These perks scale down energy returns as you get kills in your super, i.e. the first kill, wherein super returns more energy than the third kill. These perks often result in supers being able to roam the map for much longer than is healthy for the game, and meant that a victim can frequently die to an active super, respawn on another side of the map, and be killed by that same super again. We've rescaled this energy refund decay more aggressively in PvP so that the minimum energy refund is reached roughly twice as quickly. No change has been made to the refund decay against PvE combatants. Yeah, I can't even tell you how many times I've died to the same super. Like, they kill me, I spawn on the other side of the map, they kill me again. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad they're doing something about that. These include Everlasting Fire for Dawnblade Warlock and Trample Striker Titan. So, little nerf to Dawnblade coming, which, like, as expected. I think with, like, Icarus Stash and you being able to make it so you can have the Icarus Stash on, like, bottom tree when 3.0 comes out, it's going to be insane. It will be. So I'm glad they're actually, like, thinking about it and nerfing some things. Exotic armor. Each exotic below had a custom tuning pass focused on their ability energy return in PvP. Frosty's no longer stacks multiplicatively in PvP with other regeneration buffs, is now an additive scalar, no change in PvE. Hard mode, endless light. Ability energy regeneration scalars reduced by 50% in PvP. Reworked so activating multiple abilities will now reliably result in multiple empowered stacks. The stacking behavior was previously a bug, but this seemed like a good opportunity to promote it to a feature. Controverse hold. Duration of the grenade regeneration buff is no longer random between 1 and 4 seconds. It is now a fixed duration of 1.75 seconds. Reduced grenade energy regeneration scalar by 50% in PvP. The previous average duration due by waiting was 1.71 seconds, with a 1 second duration being most common. So this should improve the exotic's consistency across the game with a lower return in PvP. Doomfang Pauldrons. Reduced super energy gain on activation with the opposing player is killed by a void melee by 50%. No change in PvE. Shinobu's Vow. Reduced grenade energy gain by hits on versus players by 66%. No change in PvE. Crown of Tempest. Grenade melee and super energy regeneration scalar buff duration reduced from 7 seconds to 4 seconds in PvP. No change in PvE. And then finally, the Stag. Reduced class ability energy refund on shield break by 50% in PvP. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Again, I mean, this makes sense. With Bungie wanting to make it so it's more gunplay than ability play, it makes a lot of sense that they're going to be nerfing a lot of these supers that are key to getting your abilities back. And speaking of those, I'm actually surprised they didn't even talk about what is that helmet called for the Warlock? Whatever it is, it's like you get void kills and then it like regenerates energy if you just use a void weapon. I like have it on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. Whatever. Armor mods. In general, we've reduced energy returns from these mods by roughly 50% in PvP, depending on the number of copies of the mod you have slotted. Melee kickstart, grenade kickstart, utility kickstart, perpetuation, bolstering detonation, focusing strike, bomber, outreach, dynamo, distribution, momentum transfer, and impact induction. This is huge because these were like key to like getting your abilities back. Like I like look at these and I'm like, yeah, I probably ran like every single one of these mods at one point, like because they just get your ability back like so quickly. So I'm glad they're finally like taking a look at some of these things. This is a big foundational shift for us, and we expect to do a lot of tuning as time goes on. So as always, we'll be on the lookout for how things are feeling across the game, and we'll adjust accordingly. Now I'll throw it back to Eric for some spicy details on more ability tuning. Okay, ability tuning. I'm interested in this because I can already see Stasis Crystals, which, in my opinion, like ruined it, but like, ruined PvP a little bit at one point. It's not as bad now, but it's actually fun now. But I digress. Stasis Crystals do a lot. On top of freezing players when they're created, they also block line of sight, block movement, and act as explosive barrels. It's all a bit too much for PvP. You got that right. With the release, Stasis Crystals will now slow players instead of freezing them, and they'll do much less damage to players when they detonate. Thank you, Bungie. Thank you. Thank you, Bungie. That's all I've been asking. If they just didn't freeze you at all, if they just did not freeze you, or if you're just not frozen at all and then they slam and you're just like near it, it shouldn't kill you. Maybe if you're frozen, I could see it killing you. But now, freeze is gone, just as slow. Love that for you. Love that, Bungie. Love that. As far as PvE is concerned, Stasis Crystals will freeze combatants, and we've increased Stasis Crystal detonation damage versus PvE combatants. Looking at the numbers, it is almost always better to shoot directly at a combatant instead of a crystal near a combatant. This change should help crystals better live out their explosive barrel dreams. That's good. I like that. Stasis Crystals. While forming, Stasis Crystals now slow nearby enemies instead of freezing them. They will freeze PvE combatants while forming. Increase slow/freeze radius while forming from 1.7 meters to 2.6 meters. Reduce crystal detonation damage versus players by 55%. Increased crystal detonation damage versus PvE combatants by 60%. Increased crystal detonation radius from 6 meters to 8 meters. These are good changes. What I'm curious about is, with a 55% damage nerf, can it not one-shot you anymore? Or can it still if, like, they're right up on it? Because, like, if I'm not touching it, I should never, ever be one-shotted. Never be one-shotted. So, hopefully, it doesn't one-shot me when I'm not even touching the thing. But, Hunter, dodge. Ooh. In order to meet our goal of less ability spam in the Crucible, we're reducing how often hunters can dodge. Gambler's dodge is getting hit the hardest here because it can completely circumvent melee ability cooldown times. It also completely changes the hunter's silhouette in PvP, making it very powerful. In addition, hunter dodges will no longer break projectile tracking, meaning it's less of a get out of jail free card than a tracking rocket or another slow moving projectile is flying toward you. Thank you, Bungie. Some of the things that I had issues with hunters was that they could literally just dodge using this the gambler's dodge, and it would just completely break aim assist. Well, I play on keyboard and mouse, but I used to play on controller, so I know what I'm talking about. It would completely break aim assist, and you could, like, it was possible to hit them, but it was a lot harder. So I'm glad they're doing that. Hunter dodge no longer breaks projectile tracking. Marksman's dodge, tier 10 mobility cooldown increase from 11 seconds to 14. That's like nothing, but okay. Base cooldown unchanged at 29 seconds. Gamblers, tier 10 mobility cooldown increase from 11 seconds to 18 seconds. Base cooldown duration from 29 seconds to 38 seconds. Yes, I've been always saying they need to somehow nerf the dodge because I think it's a little strong, and I think this is pretty good. Revenant, you guessed it. The Stasis Crystal changes detailed earlier mean that the Hunter Revenant's Shatter Dive will now almost never kill a full health guardian. Shatter Dive may still kill if the hunter is using Whisper of Fissures, Touch of Winter, and the target is very center of all 6 crystals, but that has been incredibly rare in our playtesting. I think we can all agree that Shatter Dive was too powerful. We tried a number of fixes over the past few releases, but the truth is that as long as Stasis Crystals froze players and Shatter Dive shattered players, it was going to be too good. But it's not all rain clouds and puddles for Shatter Dive hunters. The increase in Stasis Crystal damage versus PvE combatants makes Shatter Dive a great choice in PvE. On top of that, we're increasing Shatter Dive damage versus frozen combatants by 100%. Have fun melting frozen monsters. I like that. I didn't know a single person who used Shatter Dive in PvE, like really. Like some people did for like challengers or whatever, but like in a GM, never ever do I ever see a Shatter Dive hunter. So maybe it'll be worth running. I don't know. We'll see. Shatter Dive. Much less lethal versus players due to Stasis Crystal changes. Much more lethal versus combatants. Increased shatter damage versus frozen PvE combatants by 100%. Grim Harvest Aspect. Increased fragment slots from 2 to 3. Okay. Top Tree Arc Strider. This change to the combination blow melee was made possible by a variable ability cooldown system. Previously, Top Tree Arc Striders were basically required to use Gambler's Dodge with this tree. We hope this change will make the ability viable even if you're using Marksman's. Combination blow. Reduce base cooldown from 96 seconds to 15. Interesting. I thought you could one-shot with it, but I might be wrong. I don't remember. I don't play Hunter really, so... Bottom Tree Nightstalker. The Vanish and Smoke melee has low damage output, but high utility. Our data shows that this subclass tree is struggling PvP, so we've decided to increase how often Pathfinder hunters can go invisible. Vanish and Smoke melee, reduce base cooldown from 96 seconds to 75. I think that's good. The Smoke Bomb was fun, but like it was like obviously like they just said. It like was never used because it was just like, you know. Titan. Shoulder Charge. We're just going to get right into the meat right here. All shoulder charges. No longer one-shot players. What? Sprint activation time reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1.2. Increased range from 5.5 meters to 6.8. Targeting cone width increased by 10%. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 25%. That is so interesting. The shoulder charge doesn't one-shot. That is insane. This is going to like completely change, I think, how the people who main shoulder charge are going to play. They're just going to like, that's crazy. They don't one-shot anymore. Seismic Strike, Arc Shoulder Charge. Reduce AoE damage from 90 to 40. Now blinds enemies in the area on hit. Increased base cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds. Shield Bash, reduced AoE damage from 90 to 40. Increased base cooldown from 82 to 90. Hammer Strike, reduced direct impact damage from 170 to 120. Increased base cooldown from 82 to 90. Interesting. So they just like completely like nerfed it. Nerfed shoulder charge like across the board, except for Seismic. I really like the blinding. I think that'll be an interesting thing to run. You could literally be the blind boy and make a build of just blinding people. It'd be fun. Barricade. Even with the rally barricade changes we made in Season of Loss, using the ability during a firefight is still a risky proposition, so we've spaced out the cooldowns of the two barricades to make the choice slightly more interesting. Towering Barricade, increased base cooldown from 37 to 40. And Rally Barricade, reduced base cooldown duration from 37 to 32. Interesting. I think I see Rally Barricade a little bit, but I think maybe with this nerf or buff, people will use it a little bit more. I don't know how much more, but maybe just get a little bit. Behemoth, Diamond Lance. Increased fragment slots from 1 to 3. Now spawns a Diamond Lance upon killing a PvE combatant with a stasis weapon, killing 3 players with stasis weapons in a single life, killing an enemy with a stasis ability, and shattering an enemy. Okay. Interesting. I don't know anybody who uses the Diamond Lance. I've never even used it, so I really have no opinion on that. Shiver Strike. Increase Shiver Strike damage while on Glacial Quake by 50%. That's kind of huge. I think that'll be fun for PvE. And then Whisper of Chains. Increase damage resistance versus PvE combatants from 25% to 40%. Hey, that's interesting. I like that. Now, Bottom Tree Striker. Knockout. Melee lunge range and melee damage bonus now deactivate after a melee kill. Ooh, that's interesting. Trample. Super energy gain from Fist of Havoc's slight attack now decays to minimum amount over 3 PvP kills, down from 7. Frontal Assault Melee. Increased base cooldown from 82 seconds to 106. And Fist of Havoc. Heavy Slaying radius reduced from 6 to 8, or 8 to 6. Bottom tree only. Good. You know how many times I've been like, I felt like I was out of the thing? Dude. Gosh. Warlocks have been losing slap fights for too long. Yes, up until now, Warlocks haven't been able to melee back to back as quickly as Titans and Hunters. No more! With the 30th anniversary, Warlocks will be able to melee just as quickly as Titans and Hunters. We are also removing the 1 meter range extension Warlocks receive to compensate, but we still think the idea of each subclass having unique qualities to their melee is interesting, but we want to do it in a way that won't cause one subclass to constantly lose slap fights, maybe someday in the future. Uncharged melee. Reduced melee charge from 1.5 meters to 4.5. Now matches Hunter and Titan. Reduce the time. Thank you. I've been asking this. I was so mad if I was in a melee duel and somebody beat me, even if I get the first melee, because my melee is super goddamn slow. Thank you for doing this. I love that. As a Warlock main, I really, really appreciate that. Middle Tree Voidwalker. Handheld Supernova. Reduced damage versus players. Now deals 150 damage max. Thank you. I'm tired of being Handheld Supernova and dying in one hit. Thank you. Increased damage versus champions bosses by 30%. Increased projectile range from 13 to 14. Now pushes targets away from Warlock on detonation. Interesting. I don't know. I like that. Nova Ward. Increased damage versus champions bosses by 30%. Maybe we'll see Nova. I think you could actually viably run Nova Ward in this update. Probably in a GM. Shadebinder. Winter's Wraith. Reduce shatter pulse damage versus enemy supers. Must now generally freeze and shatter all supers twice to eliminate. Thank you. You know how many times I'd be in Dawnblade and I see that dude and he just goes doo-doo-doo. Boom! And I'm dead every time. So stupid. So stupid. Thank you. Penumbral Blast. Increased proximity detonation radius versus PvE combatants by 100%. Bleak Watcher. While Bleak Watcher is equipped, all Stasis Grenades charge at Glacier Grenade rate. And that's all for now, folks. Here they're talking about Destiny 2 leaving the Xbox Game Pass. Known issues. Here is the movie of the week. Another movie of the week. Here's some art. Art of the week. Looks really good. Did you make it to the end? Long twab is long no. It takes a lot of work. Yeah. Yeah, that's the TWAB, guys. Huge changes. I knew this was going to be a long one. Tons of changes, but nonetheless, I think this has been a great TWAB. Probably one of the most fun to read because we just got some good confirmation on things that I thought were too OP, finally getting nerfed, things that were needed addressed, got addressed, and I'm really happy for it. And things that needed buffed are getting buffed, and I'm glad to see it. And I like the splitting of the meta. If you like this style of video, definitely leave a like and subscribe because we do these videos every week. But yeah, that's it for now. On Twitch, I'm doing Dark Matter Ultra and Cold War. I should have done it a long time ago, but we're doing it now. If you want to watch, I'm on live pretty much every single day at twitch.tv/itsAaronWL. Definitely check me out there. I'm also on Twitter. I tweet very rarely, but I'm there. And also on TikTok with this at itsAaronWL. Check me out on all my platforms. And this has been the video today, guys. Catch you in the next one.